I'm so excited. Certainly I would be excited, as 1.4 billion Catholics around the world would be excited for any pope. But when the cardinal walked out on the central balcony of St. Peter's and he said, "Annuncio vobis gaudium magnum," I announce to you news of great joy, "Habemus papam," we have a pope. And then he said, they announced his first name, that he's a cardinal, and then his last name. And he said, Robert Francis Cardinal. And I'm like, that's Prevost. He's an American from Chicago. I lost my mind. So, am I excited? Not really. So excited. I have never met Cardinal Prevost. He's only been in Rome for 2 years as the superior or the prefect of what we call the dicastery for bishops, meaning he had a big role. He was in charge of appointing bishops around the world in conjunction with Pope Francis. So I haven't met him yet, but I can't wait. Leo XIV. Now, it's very interesting that Cardinal Prevost, a little background about him. He's a native of Chicago, so he's as American as you and I, but he spent most of his life, he's an Augustinian, that's a religious order, following the rule of St. Augustine, great 4th century bishop from North Africa. So he's part of that religious congregation. Spent most of his life as a missionary in Latin America. So much so that he was named the Bishop of Chiclayo in Peru. Now that's pretty fascinating. I mean, think how good his Spanish must be, how much immersed into the culture of the people, that there he is called to be a bishop for the people he is a missionary to. Then he was elected superior, or before that he had been superior general of his Augustinian order. So he's got a great background. He's been a shepherd, a pastor, a superior of a religious congregation. He knows how to lead. He knows how to be with people. So I think he's going to be a great pope. He chose the name Leo XIV. Leo XIII was at the turn of the 20th century, and one of the most famous documents he wrote is called Rerum Novarum. Vatican documents are known by their Latin title, but it's essentially the first papal writing on the importance of the social doctrine, the social teaching of the church. Now that's very much in line with Pope Francis. You know, we have to serve and be aware of the needs of the people on the peripheries, the needs of the poor. That's part of our social teaching. It's Jesus in Matthew chapter 25. Whatever you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, you do unto me.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. You know, I knew that he was a close advisor of the late Pope Francis. You know, can we kind of expect some of the same, like you said, social teachings and just a reminder? You know, one of his first sentences was, "We must end all wars." That's bold.
When he came out, he said, "La pace del Signore sia sempre con voi." May the peace of the Lord be always with you. And then he said, those are the words of the risen Christ. We're still in the Easter season, and so the risen Christ's message is peace. And then he hammered home, we need peace in our world. We must be instruments of peace. The church must be a bridge to help bring about peace, and that all of us must be bridges. So he says, I want to pray for peace in our homes, peace in our communities, peace on this earth. I love that he said, la terra. The whole earth needs the peace of Christ. And so that will be an important part of his pontificate, of really speaking out and saying, guys, ladies, gentlemen, we're one humanity. How can we kill each other? How can we fight and war? So Jesus' message is peace, and that will be a big part of Pope Leo XIV's message. Those are his words from the balcony of St. Peter's today.
Definitely. I know, you know, when Pope Francis died, he was in communications with the churches in Gaza, and, you know, he was very outwardly, you know, hey, this is wrong, you know, there's Christians, you know, being martyred. Do you think that an American pope, you know, is going to be as bold?
I think an American pope will be even bolder, because that's the way we roll. Just think if he were a Texan, then we really have some boldness. I think he is as much an American as he is a Latin American, as he is now a Roman, as the Bishop of Rome. I think it will be interesting to see how Pope Leo manages being an American. He will have to treat us with equanimity. He can't play the card, I'm an American Pope, because he's the Pope for the Universal Church. He's the Pope of Africa. He's the Pope of Asia. He's the Pope of Europe. And he's our Pope from the United States. But he will play that very gently. I think he will make it very clear that I am the Holy Father. I am the Pope for all peoples. And the beauty of the role of the papacy is it's not just about being the Pope for 1.4 billion Catholics. The Pope has a beautiful role of unity, a voice that speaks to all peoples. And I think we saw from the balcony today that he's not afraid to use it already. I think the choice of the name Leo XIV, and I think his message of peace gives us a great vision of his desire to stand in the breach, to be a bridge. We call the Pope Pontifex Maximus, a great bridge between God and man. He's obviously just a man, but he now has a role that offers us a bridge to God.
I think the American church is kind of at this interesting juncture, right, where we've had, some pretty high name converts. I'm a convert, but we're also at this juncture where there's a lot of parochial schools that are closing. The American church is kind of, we're not quite Africa, we're not quite Europe and closing churches and making them concert halls. Will this bring about change for the American church? I can tell you, for me, Pope Francis was a large part of why I converted. Do you think that would be the same with Pope Leo XIV?
Well, let me think back to 1978. Cardinal Karol Wojtyła, the Archbishop of Krakow, was elected Pope. The Polish people went nuts. Now, they obviously were already a very devout people, but they took very special pride that their Pope, that he was a Polish Pope. I think for us as Americans, here's a kid who grew up in Chicago. Like, what? I think we can relate to that in a very special way. You could see him on that balcony. He's a 69-year-old man. He's a very good-looking man. He's a manly man. I think young people will stand behind him and identify with him. I think he's going to speak to us. It's the first time we've ever heard a Pope. We will hear a Pope speak with no accent. Just think about that for a second. We're used to hearing a Polish accent or an Italian accent or a Latin American accent. We're going to hear a Pope speak to us in English, American English. That's going to blow people's minds here in the United States. So I think he will have an important role. I believe people are hungering and thirsting for the gospel, for the truth. I was just reading an article in the New York Times this morning. Catholicism has stabilized. People are looking for belonging. They're looking for beliefs. And they're looking for something to govern their behaviors, the 3 Bs. I thought that was a really interesting thing. People are hungry and thirsty. And after the pontificate of Pope Francis, which really, as Pope Leo even said, got our ears. He opened our ears. Pope Francis opened our ears, and now Pope Leo will speak. And I think it's going to be a very exciting time for all of us. As we like to say, mic drop.